Welcome back, friends. In the previous video, we have completed the whiteboard. Now, the only thing is pending to connect our backend with frontend, and it should be working properly. So, what will be our today's motive of this video? So, here you can see that. Let's go to the Trello here. So, first of all, we have completed the whiteboard here. So, I'm going to just do this. And now let's move forward and we are going to create join and create. So this means that in this video, users should join and create the room here. So now let's move forward here. So let's first of all, we are going to go for the create room. So whenever the user can enter the name, generate the code, and then we are going to generate the room here. And that host will be joined successfully. So let's do. So first of all, we will generate the room ID here. So for that, let's go to the coding section here. And here you can see that I have already running the server here. So I have backend and frontend both now. So we will move to frontend first and let's go to the source folder. So we will go to the app.jsx and so we will go to the app.jsx and here I'm going to write this add one function here. So that function will be for UUID. So this is the function that is UUID is there. So this is generating the random ID. It is having the sub function that is S4 and it is a function and it is returning so that it will like this. And then it is returning the random number. So random number and this is like this. So here it is like 2, 1, 2 and then 3, 4, 5, 6 and that dash is also there. So this is generating this random string. So I'm going to copy this. So after copying this, let's pass this UUID for the under the forms page. So I'm going to pass this. So UUID will be UUID and this will be a function. So we are going to call the function there. So let's go to the forms first. And under the forms, here we have the UUID. And then we have to pass this UUID to the create room form. UUID and UUID. Just save this. And then for the create room form, I'm going to extract this here, UUID. And this UUID we are going to implement under its input value will be there. So input value will be there, this UUID. So as it is disabled here, so that's why it will be UUID. So let's create one state here for this. So cons and the state will be room ID and set room ID. By default, it will be calling UUID and its value will be room ID for the input and that input will be this disabled one is there and then value we have and after that we have this button generate. So here I'm going to write on click button. So on click we are going to set room ID and it will be UID. So I'm going to call this function and let's see the changes. Let's see if we have something wrong here. Use state is not defined. So we have to use the use state here from the React. Just save this. Now we have one error for too many re-renders at main.jsx 10. So there is at line 18, create room form, line number 18. here. Here value is equals to room ID. Click. Let's set this. Just save it. Now we don't have any errors. So reload this. Every time we have different ID. So when we click on generate button, so every time we have different ID here. So that's great. So now whenever the user will enter name here, like I'm entering name Raman Sharma and clicking on generate room. So this should generate a means join a room and create a room and join user to a room as a host. So now let's go to the coding section again, and here let's create one more state. So that state will be for the name. So for name, and here we will set the name to null by default. So by default it will be null, means it will be having empty string, and then for the name it will be value name, and on change we will be having the target value like this. And then for this generate room, here we are going to add one on click listener. On click, and there will be handle create room function will be there, and we will move forward. And then here we are going to use handle that will be handle create room. So handle create room is there. So first of all, we have to prevent the default, and then instead of consoling this room ID and like this, so first of all, what are the things that we need here? So the things that we need in the object is, first of all, we need the name, and after that we need the room ID, and then we need the user ID. So user ID we also need, and then if the user is host or the user is presenter. So these things we need here. So that's why here we are going to create one room data object here. So first of all, we need the name, and after the name, room ID is there, and then user ID will be the UUID. So we are going to use UUID function, and then if presenter is true and host is true here. Then here, let's just console this data here. So let's go here, and I'm opening the console, and here I'm writing the name as Raman, and that's generate the room. So here we have the object. First is host is true, name is Raman, presenter true, and this is room ID and user ID. You can see that room ID and the user ID is totally different. That's very great. Now, how to connect this with the backend? So how we can send this response in a real time to the backend to the socket.io. As we are using socket.io in the backend here, so see that in the backend when we go to the server and we have socket.io implemented here. So now how we can do that in our front end? So means from the front end we have to send this to this socket here. So now let's go to the package.json for our front ends. You can see that we don't have any dependency that we need to connect our socket.io front end to the backend. So for that we need the socket.io for the client also. So now let's first of all install that dependency. So the dependency that we need is socket.io client here. So I'm going to add new instance in the terminal here. So here we are going to add new dependency here. So first of all, let's go to the front end, and here let's write yarn add socket.io client. We are going to use this dependency under the client here. So let's wait for this installation. So this dependency is installed successfully here. I'm closing the terminal, and you can see that we have socket.io client here. So now we have to add some configurations here. So now you can see that our server is running on port 5000. So first of all, we have to import. So let's go to app.jsx, and here we have to import. So first of all, let me add some configurations here. So first of all, we have to add the server. So server is at HTTP localhost 5000, and we have some connections option. So we are going to create a new connection. So that's why force new connection we are adding true, and then reconnect attempts, that is infinity. So uh, means infinity times user can reattempt for the connection, and timeout time is there, so that is 10 seconds. And after that, transport we are using WebSocket. So and then we have to import the IO first of all. So let's import the IO. Import from socket.io client. Here we have to import. So let's import IO from socket.io client here. Now we can use this socket to emit any type of event, or do when the other event is emitted. So I'm going to copy this, and here let's send this to the first of all forms here, because there we need this only. And let's click on socket. Let's go to the forms here. So under the forms, I'm going to expect socket, and we are going to pass this socket to the create room form here. Save this, and let's go to the create room form, and here I'm going to extract this socket here, and then we are going to use this socket here. So here socket dot emit, we are going to emit the event. So event name will be like user join, and here it will be like room data. Now we have the user data here. So we have the user data, so we have to save this user data somewhere also. So for that, in the app.jsx, so I'm going to create some states here. So first of all, one state I'm going to use. So that state will be user, user, and set user. And here will be use state, and by default the user will be null. And I'm going to copy this, and this user I'm going to pass here to the forms, and then doing the same procedure to the forms, and now expecting from the forms and passing to the create room form. And then let's go to the create room form, and here extract the set user, and here I'm going to set the user and set user to room data. So it will be room data, and here also room data. So now we have to check, means we have to check this user join function from the backend, and if this event emits, then we have to get the data here. So now let's go to the server.js, and let's do thing, and that thing we are going to do under this io dot on connection only. So here what we are going to do is, so we have to look for the event. So that is socket dot on and user join. So whenever the user will join, user join, and here we can confirm this. So that is user joined here. So user joined is there. So user joined, and then here the user will be having the data. So we are going to use this data, and first of all let's expect. So first of all we have expected the name, user ID is there, and then there is room ID. So room ID is also there, and host is there, the presenter is there. So just now we have to join the user. So here we are going to write socket.join room ID. So we are going to join this user to this room ID here. So this room ID. Just this thing we are going to do, and further most modifications we are going to do in the next videos. So the messages etc we will do in the next video. So just save this. Now the user is joined successfully here, so we have to send the event also to know if the user is joined or not. So here I'm going to emit the event, so that event will be user is joined. So user is joined, and let's pass the data. So pass the data will be success. Just this thing I'm going to pass. So now let's go to our front end here. So here I'm going to write use effect. Use effect. I'm going to use effect here. So use effect, and here I'm going to manage the events here. So event. So here it will be user is joined. Socket dot user is joined. If the user is joined, so first of all we are going to check if data dot success. If success is there, then we are going to write console dot log user joined, and else something went wrong. User joined, error is there. Just save this. So now let's move forward here, and here let's try here. So here I'm going to write Raman, and let's click on generate room. So here we are getting user joined, means user is joined successfully, but we are not getting console logs there. So let me first of all, means we are not getting to that room, so that we want. So for that here, what I'm going to do, so I'm going to import use navigate from direct router DOM, and here let's create a navigate function, navigate, and here I'm going to use navigate, and then we are going to navigate to the room ID. So as you can see here, we have this slash and then room ID. So we are going to navigate the user there. And before that, I'm also going to console.log our room data, so that I can get the room ID and this copy thing that we will do in the next video. So here I'm going to refresh it again, and let's write Raman Sharma, and let's click on generate room and see that we are under this whiteboard sharing app now, and this is the room ID and the user is joined successfully. So now we have the room ID here and user is joined successfully here. So now we can move forward here and we can join another user as well. We can join another user as well. So for that we have to go for the join room. So let's do that. So we have to go for the join room, and further modifications we will do in the next video. So create room is done and we have the user ID as well. So we have to join the room now. So for that, let's move forward here. So let's go to the join room. So here we have the forms. So first of all, let me paste the ID somewhere. I'm pasting the ID here. That will be good. Or let me open the notepad and paste the ID here. So that's great. And now let's move forward here. So here the same thing I'm going to pass to the join room, but instead of UUID. Just save this. And now let's go to the server, not server. Let's go to the join room form here. So under this one, I'm going to extract all these. So first of all, socket is there, and then there is set user. Set user is there. So here I'm going to create first states here. So first state will be room ID, and by default UUID will not be there. So because user will add the room, and then here will be use state and like this. So let's make this controllable like this. It is like this. So now here we have the on click. So click on click we will be having the function that is handle room join, and here we are going to create the function that is handle join room or handle room join. So by default we will prevent default and set user room data and user join like this. Let's import use navigate from rect router do, and here we are going to use navigate here. So cons navigate, and that will be the use navigate here. And then here we are going to navigate the user to that room ID. Just save this, and here I'm going to add test name, and here I'm going to add the room ID. That will go to the notepad and copy this room ID, and let's paste here. Click on join room. So we have the error that is UUID is not defined. So user ID, UUID is there. So actually we need UUID as well. So for that here, I'm going to add pass UUID as well. Just save this. Now there should not be any error. Let's click on join room. See that we are getting user joined and user is joined successfully. So now we have some errors here. See that user has joined here and the user is not a presenter. So presenter. So that's why we are getting the controls here, but we don't want that. User should get the controls here. So user should not get the controls here. So that's why this thing we are going to do in the next video. So for today, this is enough. If you have any queries, please comment in comment section. I will definitely respond to that. And last, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.